Hello everybody, it's me, Shad Polynerdic, back with some TTRPG stuff. I'm excited for this one. Those of you that are tuned into the industry know that Darrington Press, Critical Role's publishing imprint for tabletop games, released Daggerheart about 70 some odd days ago. Back in May was when it came out, and I finally have it. It took some work to get it, but I got it. It's here. It's a hell of a offering from Darrington Press. I haven't got to play it yet, so this video is entirely first impressions based on reading the book and whatnot. I really dig the art in this book. I was going to do like a slideshow while we talked, but for whatever reason, my streaming setup, my recording setup wouldn't let me do it. So we'll just show you the giant and the goblin, random pages. I have spent the last week and a half reading through this from the PDF to the physical copy. You know me, I'm old-fashioned. I love the physical copy. But I have thoughts that I have written down this time, so we could almost do it like a professional style. I'm not just going off the top of my head. As I said, this is first impressions. Haven't got to play it. I've made a character or two, or at least got most of the way through it. Couldn't do the stuff where you talk about connections with the other players because it's just me. But this is a narrative-driven, high fantasy setting style of game. So it's in the same vein as like your Pathfinders and your D&Ds and whatnot. But it is designed for the most part with narrative in mind. There's some mechanics that we'll talk about in a little bit. I just want to do like a kind of high-level overview of this. But while we talk, I want to throw up the cover art so you could just admire that beautiful art there. Doesn't say on the cover who did it, but it's fucking gorgeous. Anyway, there were 9 classes at launch. Bard, Druid, Guardian, Ranger, Rogue, Seraph, Sorcerer, Warrior, and Wizard. Bard, Druid, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Wizard are kind of, self-explanatory if you play any of the other games that I've mentioned at the start of this. Definitely you should be aware of what they are. Now, Guardians and Seraphs kind of fall in especially Seraph is like the cleric paladin style kind of character. Guardians and Warriors kind of are like the fighters, barbarians, sort of. There's not a 1-to-1 in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree with me. But there are also 4 classes in playtesting: Assassin, Brawler, Warlock, and Witch. I particularly like those last 2, the W's. I look forward to them being rolled out in full. But that does create a problem that I'll, again, address later, because I do want to go through this high-level stuff and then get into what I like and dislike, or what I'm at the very least wary of. The subclass system is built around, or the class and subclass system is kind of built around the domain system. Each of the classes have 2 domains, and then there's always overlap with one other class, which I think is an interesting design choice, but I don't know how it's going to work as you expand. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue to the only 2 have that, you know what I mean? Like is it going to branch out into these 3 classes happen to share these 2 domains, or something of that nature. And the domain system is Arcana, Blade, Bone, Codex, Grace, Midnight, Sage, Splendor, and Valor. And the vast majority of those have spellcasting in them. So, most of the characters in this game, true to form for high fantasy, will have magic of some sort or another. And they're currently playtesting Dread and Sage, which come from the Warlock and the Witch, respectively. Although I think the Witch has Dread and Sage together. As far as heritages, they call them ancestries in this. You have Clank, which is the robot people. Think Warforged, if you know, or Automaton from Pathfinder. Dracona, there's your Dragonborn, Dwarf, Elf. Fairy are interesting in this game because they are insectoid. I don't see any on the cover art here, but they are more insect-like. And they can be up to like 5 foot tall, which gives you a lot of room to work with there. Fawn, satyrs, satyr types rather, old Fern from Campaign 3. Furbolg, however you want to pronounce it. Again, Caduceus Clay, that style of Furbolg, not the old hairy giant type from original D&D games or from folklore. Fungrel, which are your fungus people, your mushroom guys and gals. Giants in this game are interesting because they can be, 2-eyed, 1-eyed, or 3-eyed. And they're not like 20 feet tall like giants in D&D and Pathfinder. They are more akin to the Goliath size, 10 feet tall, if that. Giants are giants. Goblins, which, as I showed you very briefly at the beginning, the goblins in Daggerheart are fucking adorable. They are not, little monsters. They kind of have the same vibe as Gizmo from the Gremlins movies. Like they're adorable. They're not covered in fur, but they have that same sort of adorable big eyes, big ears kind of vibe to them. Halflings, human, Infernus, which are tieflings, Katari, which are catfolk, which this game does an interesting thing with it where some of the catfolk are designed as like human with cat ears and tails, or like fur on their hand, there's a range of human with cat features to humanoid cat man or woman, like they run the whole gamut, which is kind of cool. I tend to lean more towards the humanoid cat people versus the humans that look like cats. Like I'm more of a tabaxi style of catfolk, but teach their own. Orcs, ribbits being the frog folk, which are freaking adorable. Between them and the fungrels and the goblins, man, it's fucking cuteness overload in a really interesting way. And then Simia, which are like the monkey people. I personally generally don't like playing as monkey style races because humans are apes, and just because we lack tails and feet that can grab things and a full body of fur, like I don't want to stay in this neighborhood when I play a fantasy game. But that's just me. And they're currently playtesting over on their website, The Void, which is something we're going to talk about. They're playtesting Earthkin, Tidekin, Emberkin, Skykin, Aetheris, which are, half Celestials or people with Celestial blood. Asimar from D&D. And Gnome, which is funny to me that Gnome isn't a core class. Like that, it's a weird one for Gnome not to be a core class. But Goblin to be a core class. Usually it's Gnome is core and Goblin isn't, or both are core, whatever. Communities. This is the other way you design your player or your character is after you pick your class and your ancestry, then you do your community, which is Highborn, Loreborn, Orderborn, Ridgeborn, Seaborn, Slyborn, Underborn, Wonderborn, and Wildborn. And some of those are pretty self-explanatory. Like Highborn, you're well-to-do. Ridgeborn, you kind of live out on like the cliffs, the mountains. Sea, you're on or near the sea. Underborn is like the subterranean, like the Underdark or the Darklands. Isn't that what they call it in Pathfinder? Underground. Wander, you're kind of nomadic and wild. You like live in nature. And those are joined by playtesting of Duneborn, Freeborn, Frostborn, Hearthborn, Reborn, and Warborn. Warborn being like you live or grew up in an area that's ravaged by war. Frost, it's cold. Duneborn, out in the desert. Reborn means that you're from a community that you're no longer a part of, which is not what I thought it was initially. But cool idea. They're also playtesting some transformations. Vampire, werewolf, reanimated, shapeshifter, ghost, and demigod. These are parts of your kit that are designed to come later. Like reanimated could be because you died. Werewolf and vampire, you fucking got bit. Ghost, you're dead, and you didn't get reanimated. You're just dead. And demigod being like you've been exposed to the blood of the gods. Like I think of it, the major event that's going on right now in Pathfinder, where one of their gods died, and it caused like a divine blood rain, and shards of their armor falling on the world. I think of the demigod as kind of like that kind of vibe. That's just my surface level take on it. And then all of those playtest things can be found on a website called Daggerheart.com/The Void. That's where you can find the Warlock class and the Brawler, the Assassin. You can find those transformation cards. All that stuff is there, and that's where they're dropping all sorts of stuff to support this game moving forward. They've done a lot in a very short time since this game's been out, and I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it, of course. But like, let me get back to what I was doing so I could see myself here and what I was talking about. Mechanically, this game's a little different than you're used to if you play D&D. You have a 2d12 system, 1 d12 representing hope, 1 representing fear. When you roll, all of your successes and failures are well, not all of them, but like the main tests. Like if you're going to attack somebody, you roll with hope and fear. Whichever dice is higher is how you succeed or fail, or is the one you pick. And then if it passed the difficulty check, if you roll an 11 and the DC was 12, technically if you roll 11 and the DC was 10, you succeed. And if the higher dice was hope, you succeed with hope. And now if you fail and fear is higher, you fail with fear. And there's mechanics that come into that where, like, failing with fear or succeed. If fear is the highest one, goddamn. If fear is the highest one, you succeed or fail, and then the game master takes back control for a moment. Like that's one of the things that is a key mechanic of it, because this game doesn't play with an initiative order like Pathfinder and D&D and so many others. It's all very seat of the pants. I have an idea. You have an idea. You over player number 3 is ready to do a double team attack with player number 4, so they're going to get that going, and then it goes around like that until someone rolls with fear, or the DM uses some of their stockpiled fear to go on the attack. Other mechanic things that I found interesting is instead of an armor class, they use evasion, which I think is a novel way to do it, because it's more like you dodged the attack than took it and didn't take damage. Like it's flavorful in a way that I like for the narrative aspect of it. Now the way that getting damaged as a player character occurs is you have damage thresholds, and so if the game master, the adversaries, the enemies hit you, they roll high enough, it goes higher than your evasion, you get hit, they roll damage, and then you have thresholds where, like, if it's under this lower number, it's 1 hit point. If it's over the lower number but lower than the higher number, it's 2 hit points, and then 3 at the high end. And I think that's one of the things I want to talk about later, because it let's put a pin in that. And then you also have HP and stress you're tracking. So there's a lot of things you're tracking. Hope. You're tracking hope. They're tracking fear. The GM. You're paying attention to your hit points. You're paying attention to your stress. Because like if your stress gets maxed out, that makes you vulnerable. You also, if more stress is applied to you, you have to start taking hit points off. Some of your abilities require taking a point of stress to activate them. Some of them require hope to activate. So there's a fair bit of crunch here. And so while it is marketed as narrative forward, narrative driven, narrative first, there are a fair bit of moments of rolling dice and doing math, which can slow things down, in my opinion and my experience, from several years of running D&D and a couple shots with Monsters of the Week and Monster of the Week and Pathfinder and Cyborg. I've been out there a bit in the tabletop space over the last 5 years since I started playing and collecting rule books, as you can see behind me. And I think that this is mostly narrative driven, but I've seen some people negatively call it a theater kids TTRPG, and that kind of undersells it because there are rules and there are moments of crunch. It's a little crunchier than you might expect if you buy into the word that it's a theater kids game. Now, as far as what I like the most in this game, from what I've read, my first impressions here, I love the D12 hope and fear mechanic. I think that is such a great way to handle gameplay in a way that's different than the standard D20. Like the Fallout game does a 2D20 system. The Alien RPG is just a bunch of D6s. I think Mothership is just a D100, if I remember correctly. Draw Steel, MCDM's game that just came out. The PDF just hit my inbox this week, and the hardcover is coming sometime in the fall. They do a 2D10 system. And then, so many games do a D20. So the D12 hope and fear mechanic together, I love. It's a nice choice. I love the art, as mentioned. I wish I could be showing you more of it, but it just would not open the slideshow. Absolutely love the Void playtesting environment. I think that is fantastic. I do have one concern with it, and that is the cards. That is one thing I did not mention because I was waiting until we got to the end. The domains and your abilities and everything you get when you level up come in this nice Daggerheart. Hi, buddy. You can't be up here right now, buddy. You can't be up here right now. Omar wanted to join in on the fun. This is Omar. If you've never met Omar, that's Omar. Named him after Matt and Marisha's corgi because he has a nub tail, which you can see right there at the bottom of the screen. Buddy. See, he's got a little corgi tail. Hold on. I don't edit if you've never watched any of my videos, so it's all done in the raw, so to speak. You just can't make up your mind where you want to go, huh, buddy? Your bow tie's on backwards. Anyway, the cards come in this box. It comes along with the book. It's got a nice magnetic clasp to it, but the cards. This is where all the domains and the abilities and spells and yeah. Decent idea. I don't love it. In part because it's just a lot of shit to keep track of on the table. I don't have the biggest game table personally, so the less we can get on the table, the better, especially when we're using maps and minis, because you've got everybody's dice, you've got everybody's player sheets, you've got the Dungeon Master stuff, any minis that I have behind my Dungeon Master screen to use, all sorts of things that like already crowd the table, so it's not great when there's more things. And also, as I was just talking about with the playtest stuff, as they make new domains and new spells and new classes, you have to, you kind of like, if you still want to stick to the card system, you have to get card stock and print them, or paper and print them, and then you just have flimsy cards. My printer's busted, so if we were to try to play something with the Warlock and the Witch right now, we would have to like handwrite the cards. Really not altogether any different than any other game where you put your spells on your spell list, and then you have to reference the book if you don't have the pre-printed cards that other publishers put out. It's just a very small complaint. The cards are all very beautifully designed. The art's great, again. And it's cool to have. As a player, it would be really cool to have the cards. I think it definitely is something that's more for the player than, overstimulated DMs like myself. So that was the Void playtesting stuff. I deviated briefly into a dislike or something I'm worried about. But the campaign frames that are in the book are great for the most part. I don't care much for the one that's about hunting monsters and cooking them. I don't have that problem, or a problem with that being the mechanic, or a mechanic in the game, because, like Monster Hunter does it, the video game, and it's fantastic. My entire last campaign, the rogue had also studied a bit of alchemy, potion making, and whatnot. So they had they had the kits needed to harvest monster parts to make things, or to sell monster parts to the guild craftsman, blacksmith, whatever you want to call them. And so we had that thing. So I don't mind that as a mechanic. I just don't like the whole setting being around it. I know there's a anime, a manga that's like that. It's about dungeon delving and slaying monsters for food. I've never seen it, so I don't have that touchstone to be like, that's one I like. And then there's another one that's like post-apocalyptic sci-fi-y that it's not my thing. Like, I like sci-fi a whole lot, but not in this kind of thing. Like, it's just not for me. Now, the ones I do love, Age of Umbra was amazing. I highly recommend you go watch the 8-part miniseries that Critical Role did using Daggerheart in the Age of Umbra. It is very Dark Souls-like. It's very gritty and hard, and like death is permanent. Very, very, very good stuff in that setting. I like it a lot. Colossus of the Drylands I like because it combines two things I love. There are several things I love. I won't limit it to two. It's got like a western-y vibe to it, which I love. I love a good fantasy western. And I also love the giant lumbering colossi. Very much like Shadow of the Colossus, where you have to strategically deal with them. They have a whole mechanic set up for it about how to, take apart the colossi in different ways. This one you're gonna take its legs out, stuff like that. And it has a bunch of ready-made ideas and colossi ready to go. Love that, and I love the Wither Wild because it's about conquest and corruption in nature, and it's just a really cool campaign setting or campaign frame. It's not a setting. These frames are interesting because they're small, little, like 2-3 page, sometimes a little bit more than that, but they're just like enough to like. I think that was a cat hair that just floated by. Anyway, little campaign ideas basically. Like, here's a world where some shit's happened. Here's a map. Make it yours, which I like. That's very cool because world building's hard. I've been doing it for years, and I'm not even close to finished. And sometimes it's nice to just have like an idea thrown at you, to like, hey, what if it's like this? Run with it. And so I like that. And then that tags into the collaboration aspect of the game that I like a whole lot. and that it's very group focused. It's not. It does a decent job of being designed to motivate the players to also help with the world. It's not like so many other games where it's the onus, the lion's share of the work is on the game master, the dungeon master, the storyteller, whatever. This gives, in a number of ways, mechanics and inspiration for the players to add to the world. From the maps where you know, as part of the session 0, or the first session if you prefer, like, you get to add stuff to the map, you get to make NPCs, you get to, you know, your backstory, you know, you get to make NPCs as part of it. Like, you know, stuff that people have done in other games, of course, but like, it's pretty much like in the book here. Like, this is something you should do to help make the game more collaborative. And mechanically, before we move on, I really, 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 really love the death moves. I like that it's not the death save system from other games. It's not that. This is the way I'll put it. It's not like a death save thing where you need to make 3 death saves and then you're back up with 1 hit point or whatever. It's 3 options. You can go out in a blaze of glory, which means you're guaranteed a critical success, and you get to narrate, you know, your last action before you die. There's some great moments of that in the Age of Umbra miniseries. And not spoilers, I guess. Somebody dies, and they do a blaze of glory. There is just collapse, unconscious. That is pretty close to the D&D Pathfinder way of doing things, except for you are out until you are healed or until a rest happens. And there's a possibility you'll take a scar, which has gameplay mechanics. Especially in the Age of Umbra setting, it has specific mechanics that benefit you if you have a scar, but you also take the negative of that. And then the other option is Risk It All, where you roll your duality dice, your hope and fear, and if hope is higher, you spring back up, and then you can split whatever was on the dice. If it's a 12, you could do like 6 HP and 6 stress or whatever. You know, like you could... There's mechanics involved in that involve the number. So, like, it would suck if you rolled, like, a 2 on hope and a 1 on fear, and then you're like, well, I've got these 2 hit points back, I guess. But the flip side of that is you could very easily die, depending on how your rolls are going that night. As far as dislikes, I talked about the cards already. That's not obviously not a game killer for me. It's just it's a thing I worry about keeping track of and not losing and having clutter on the table. Maybe if I had a bigger, fancier game table, it would be less of a concern for me. But space is at a premium, always. I think that the domains and specifically the subclasses, more the subclasses being limited to 2 a class. Hurts a bit as someone that loves options. You know, 5e's been out for a decade plus, and you know, 3.5 going back to the 90s, and you know, just so much. D&D has so many options. Pathfinder has so many options. Even newer games like Morkborg have a ton of options per your character. So it kind of stings a bit for subclasses to be limited to 2. Again, by no means a game killer. It just like I just like options. And to that end, I talked a little bit about it with the new classes and stuff coming out. The domains, like, I don't know if they're going to be able to stick to 2 classes overlapping domains, or if we're going to have to expand that over time. Like, I saw an interview with Matt just this weekend where he talked about adapting the Blood Hunter to Daggerheart, because they're doing a Daggerheart Bell's Hells game. In fact, I think they might have done it yesterday at Gen Con. I don't remember. Anyway, it's coming soon. So he was talking about adapting some D&D stuff from their existing campaigns into Daggerheart, and so like that stuff's going to come out eventually, I would assume, or people are going to make it themselves after seeing how it works, and you're just going to end up with all these things that you need new cards for. So that's just a small concern. Like, I don't even like calling it a dislike. Even the cards, I don't like calling them a dislike. It's just highly personal as to why I'm wary of them. The adversary section, the bestiary, the bestiary of the core book, most of the adversaries listed do not have art for themselves. Quite a few of them do. And like, we don't need dire bats and giant rats and stuff. We don't need art for that. We can picture what that is. But like, there are some bespoke, unique to this game enemies that they've come up with that don't have art. And almost none of them, outside of the stuff in the Drylands about the Colossi, almost none of them have lore. And that hurts. Because I like lore. One of the reasons why I collect books is because I like reading about settings and monsters and whatnot. I don't like the lack of lore. And I understand why, because it's not a setting guide. It's not, there is no world of Daggerheart. It's very, 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 very loosely orchestrated, so that way you have control of it as the game master and the player. But God, I love when I open up a monster manual and can read about the monsters more than just their stat blocks, or more than just a 2-3 sentence thing at the top of the stat block that, this is a ungodly abomination from the outer realms. That's what it is. Okay. Anyway, so that's actually the closest thing to a dislike as I actually have. And then as far as something else, probably the last thing I'm wary about, the collaboration aspect again. As much as I like it, I could see it being a disaster at the wrong table. That's where the theater kid energy kind of plays in a little bit. People that are good at improv, people that are good at storytelling, or at the very least expressing creative ideas, the collaboration is excellent for them. Not so much for every single person I've known, let alone played with. Some people just freeze up. I think that's actually something that I'm more concerned about than the initiative order being dominated by a hyper extroverted player. I think most tables will find a rhythm for that aspect of it, to not have one person dominate everything and then some of the quieter players struggle. I think the collaboration will be a bigger issue in my experience. Could be wrong. More than willing to be wrong. I actually kind of hope I'm wrong about that. That's the last of the things I'm wary about. And real quick, I wanted to hit stuff that's not in the book, but it's stuff that came out over the weekend. They've got some really exciting things coming for Daggerheart that makes me even more excited that I got this when I did. And that is Perkins and Crawford, formerly of D&D. You may be aware, you may not be aware. They joined Darrington Press as creative leads, basically. And they are making a campaign setting and adventure. And that's where we're going to get, if it's good, we're going to get what I was just complaining about with the adversaries. Like, I want a world with some lore. Like, I would love to see them flesh out the Age of Umbra setting into a full thing. I would also love to see Exandria played out in it. We'll see what comes down the line. They're doing a collaboration with Hero Forge, which is great because I love myself some Hero Forge minis. That you can actually kind of see them right here. There's a couple I got down and then forgot to bring over here of a Turtle Folk Warlock and a Tiefling Pirate Captain that are part of a campaign that I was making that is never going to happen now. But I have the minis for it. Anyway, I'm cautiously optimistic about that because every time they've mentioned it, they've described it as pre-built packs. Because Hero Forge does do a thing where you can buy, like, I think it's like a pack of 6 minis that have been designed and print them or buy them, you know, physical. Buy them in physical, excuse me. I hope that's not it, though. I hope that's not the limitation of it. I want it to be a thing where I can go in and make a Simia or a Ribbit of my own. Like, you can kind of do that in a lot of cases anyway. But, like, the frog folk that are available in Hero Forge aren't quite the same as the Ribbits. They're more like the they're not even like the Grung. They're like the taller, skinnier frog folk that come and go from D&D. I forget their name. So I would like a more Ribbit-esque one, and I really hope I can make some Fungrels, because right now the options to make fungus people in Hero Forge are kind of lacking. They've only got a couple mushroom cap hats that you can put on, and then you can do some other things to make them look like fungus people. But it's not the same as the way the Fungrels are designed in Daggerheart, which is beautiful. I really love the design that went into this game. They're doing a Kickstarter, I think, right now, for class in a box, basically. That way, somebody's going to have to own the core set to run the game, or you could probably do it from the SRD that they put out. But like players, if like I want to be a wizard, they can go get this little box, and it has everything in it that you would need to play a wizard. All the domain cards, the spell cards, everything just in that box. And I think that's a cool idea. It's a good way around the shit, I don't have a printer to print these cards aspect. But it's also incredibly capitalistic as well, which, it's a money grab for certain, but it's one that works, so I'm kind of excited about it. And then the last one is Keith Baker and his wife. I think her last name's Ellis. I think her first name is Jennifer. I don't want to be wrong, though. So Baker and Ellis, the creators of Eberron in D&D, the world that Warforged are from, and where they're dragon marked houses and all that stuff. I love Eberron. I've never played a game in it, but I love it as a setting. I've got multiple books about Eberron. They have joined with Darrington Press to make a source book of their own, which is fantastic. So there's the potential of 2 campaign settings coming to Daggerheart. I'm excited. I think Daggerheart has a bright future, not just because I'm a Critical Role fan. It reads like a game that will be a lot of fun to play, and I can't wait to actually get to experience it. Keep your eyes on the channel. At some point, I will probably do a character creation video, just like I did with A Life Well Lived and such. I like doing character creation videos once I've figured it out. I just need some time to actually figure out the Daggerheart one. I almost yawned again. Anyway, I gotta go. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in whatever comes next, whether it's something else here on this channel, or if you check out the metric boatload of video game videos that are already on the channel, and more coming every day. I'll see you around. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Polynerdic everywhere you can possibly find us. And I'll see you around.